All right, in this video, I'm going to give you the beginner's tutorial to e-commerce SEO. So I'm going to show you all the different steps you need to take if you're trying to optimize your e-commerce store to rank on Google. Now, just before we get started, if you want me to coach you on how to SEO your e-commerce store for only $49 a month, go to learndominatemarketing.com. And if you'd like us to do your e-commerce SEO with guaranteed results, go to dominatemarketing.io, book a call with us there. Right, onto the video. So the first thing is keyword research. Keyword research is the basis for everything you're going to do in SEO. You need to establish what keywords you actually want to rank for so that you can then optimize your e-commerce store to rank for those keywords. Now, I made a number of videos to do with keyword research. I'm going to put links to those in the description below, which are going to show you how to do keyword research in depth. However, there are two tools that you can use to do keyword research. So the first one is the Google Ads Keyword Planner. Now, this is a free tool that you'll find in the Google Ads account. You can just make a Google Ads account. You don't have to spend any money on the ads and you'll get access to this tool. It'll be under tools here, and then you got keyword planner. And basically what this allows you to do is to put in the keyword and the location you want to set it to. So let's say, for instance, let's say it's just Los Angeles. You can do it by city, you can do it by region, you can even do it by radius, and you want to put in like men's shoes, which is your product. What it's going to do is it's going to tell you how many people search this keyword every month and all of the related keywords that go along with it. So you've got men's shoes, you've got searches from 1,000 to 10,000 each month. And if we scroll to the right, it'll also give us the estimated cost per click bids if you're going to run Google Ads. Now, if we scroll down, you can also see the recommended relevant keywords that Google also gives us. So things that it thinks are related to what you search for. So for instance, here we got Nike Air Max, we got cowboy boots, Nike Air Max 90, men's slippers, work boots, men's boots, and so on. And you can see you go down the list here and you got the search volume for these, and it's a long list. Obviously, it gives you, usually you'll get like 1,000 to 2,000 keywords. So this will give you an idea of what you should be going for. However, the problem is it only gives you the search volume and the keyword itself, which is okay, but it's not a lot of information. The second tool you can use is called SEMrush, and I'm going to put my affiliate link to SEMrush below this video because I highly recommend you do use it if you're doing SEO, because I personally use it. Now, what SEMrush does is it gives you everything we just saw in Google, but a lot more. So let's say we type in men's shoes. What's going to happen is SEMrush is going to give us a lot more information on this keywords. You can see that we've got the total search volume, we've got the global search volume, what the intent of the keyword is, and in this case it's transactional, meaning people want to buy it, the estimated cost per click. But now what starts to get more relevant is the keyword difficulty that SEMrush has estimated. So how hard it's going to be to rank for that keyword. You can see all of the different variations of the keywords and different ways that those are grouped. So for instance, like you can have broad match, exact match, and so on. The volume and the difficulty for all of these keywords, and you can click into each of these and see all of their stats as well as an individual keyword, you can see here. And it also gives you a list of questions that people search to do with the topic. And these are really, really good if you're trying to do blogs or trying to get additional traffic. For instance, informational traffic that's not necessarily looking for the product, but they might funnel into being a customer or being a customer later. This gives you that. And this is something you don't get in Google Ads Keyword Planner. And it also gives you the SERP analysis, which means this is analysis of what it sees or what it scanned that Google page 1 is actually showing. It gives you how many backlinks and referring domains each of these sites have, how much traffic it estimates, the page authority score, and so on. And basically this just shows you how competitive this keyword actually is, so you can make a quick assessment as to what's going on. So I'm sure you can see how this would be very, very useful if you're doing SEO, which is exactly why I recommend you get this tool. But that's a quick overview. If you want to know more about how to use SEMrush, I'm going to put a link to my videos on how to actually use it for keyword research below, which are going to be a lot more in depth than what I'm showing you here. This is just an overview. So that's now keyword research. So once you've established your keywords that you need to go after with your e-com store, the next thing you need to do is start optimizing the site. So from here, it's going to be things you can do on the actual website. The first one being meta titles and descriptions. So these are the headlines that actually show up in Google. So for instance, if we type in men's shoes, this is the meta title and this is the meta description, that text below here. So these two you can actually optimize to say what you want it to say and to try and get more clicks. Now, what you typically want to do is ensure that the main keyword is in the meta title specifically, because Google looks at the meta title to see what that page is actually about and then whether it's going to rank it for that keyword. So if you don't have the keyword in there, it's just not going to be relevant for it. So you want to make sure that you got the keyword in there. Each meta title on your page needs to be unique. Otherwise, they're going to cannibalize each other and Google's not going to figure out what's the main page for that keyword. So you need to make sure that you're unique on every page, every category, every product. It needs to be unique, and try not to cross over keywords as much as possible. Now, the meta descriptions, which is the text below this part here, this is not actually a ranking factor. So you want to use them to just convince people to click on your website. So what it does do, however, is if you include the keyword in this, it shows up in bold. And so what happens is it stands out more. So you can see here how men's and shoes is bold, and also shoes and sneakers, because Google's linked those two words together. You can see how they're showing up in bold. So this just helps catch the eye as you're scrolling down. So if you can get more keywords in the description to show up in bold, it's typically going to help you get a better click-through rate. Now, the next thing is the H1 headline. So the H1 headline is at the main headline on your page on your website. So if we go to my website and we click on a random product, this is the H1 headline. Now, you need to make sure there actually is H1 headline, that you actually have one. Some themes and some website builders don't actually include it. So you can actually right-click inspect and go here. You can see here it says H1 in the top left corner of that box. That means that's a H1 headline. So this is also what Google looks at when it's deciding what a page is about. So you need to make sure you got the keyword in the H1 headline, and they need to be unique. And every single collection, category, product, and page on your website, if you want them to rank, needs to have an H1 headline with the keyword in it. So you need to make sure that those are optimized, and you need to make sure that they're unique on every page, similar to the meta title. They do a very, very similar job, and they're extremely important for SEO, so you need to optimize them. Next thing is URLs. So URLs are also extremely important for SEO. Google looks at the URL first before everything else. So maybe I should have actually put this as number one, but Google looks at the URL first because it scans that before it even gets to your website. So it figures out what the page is about from the URL. So the URL is extremely important to be accurate as to what this actually is about. So you need to make sure that your URL is short. So keep it ideally 3 to 4 words. Now, what I mean by short is if we scroll down, I'll just show you the URL on my one here. If we scroll across, you can see here I got the .com, which is fine, but that's not what we're talking about when I say URL. When I say URL, I mean what's after the .com. So you got /product, and then you got / and now the product. So this section is what you need to keep 3 to 4 words. The last piece here. Now you can see this one is obviously a lot longer. I haven't optimized this. This is just an example product on the page, but you would want to keep this last section 3 to 4 words where you can. So I would have something like Megane Racing coilover Nissan 280Z or something like that. And that would be about 5. You want to keep it 3 to 4 words typically. You can extend it to 5 and 6 in some instances, but try and keep it as short as possible. Don't have that long one like I just showed you. That's an example of what not to do. Now, you also want to ensure that the main keyword is actually in that URL as well. That's a huge thing you need to do. So make sure the keyword is in there. Now, the next thing is the actual page content and the H2 and H3 headlines. So content on every page, every product, every category, every collection is extremely important. It needs to be unique, descriptive, and well written on every single one of these. And you need to make sure that you include H2 and H3 headlines that actually have the variations of the keywords. So if we go back to Google, you can see here we got men's shoes, and then we got like men's dress shoes, Nike shoes for men, best running shoes. These are all different variations that you can include obviously on the appropriate category, but you would want to make sure you include all those different variations for that specific keyword. So for instance, if it was men's running shoes category, we can take a look at the different variations. The different variations here would be men's running shoes for men, men running shoes. These all technically count as variations, and so you want to make sure that you include those different variations in the headlines. Same with best running shoes for men. So let's say for instance we go to a category. I'm going to show you an example here. This is my category of coilovers, and you can see what I've done here is I've got the main H1 headline, and now I've got H2s. What are coilovers? That's a variation. What do coilovers do? That's a H3, H2 again, H2, H2. Now obviously this is not complete, but you can see the example here. I've got all this content with H2 and H3 headlines in the description here, or in the content, which has all these variations of these keywords. So this page is likely to rank for those keywords. So you want to make sure that you do that and make sure it's relevant on every collection or category page and every product. Make sure they're unique and you've optimized the content. Now the next thing is the category pages. So this is the one that's probably the most overlooked piece of SEO with e-commerce stores that I've noticed. You need to make sure that the collection of the category page is actually optimized for the main keyword you want it to rank for. You also need to make sure that it has an H1 headline and a good content on every collection page. You want to use the page 1 of Google to figure out what content and H2s to include. So you would literally go on Google and type in men's shoes, and you would go to all of the pages and open them up and see what content they actually have. So sometimes you'll find that they don't, especially if they're authoritative websites. They will rank without any content, but you want to see which ones do have content and then what content is on them. So for instance, these guys don't have anything. These guys have some content. You can see here, and they have some sub headlines as well. So that's an example, and they use this for internal linking too, which is something that you would want to do. So this is a good example of why this is good. We'll talk about that later. These guys, they've got some content. So this gives you an example, and obviously these would be very easy to go better than, but it gives you an example of how to find this out. Now, I've spoken about this and why this is a mistake, why most people don't do this. I'm going to put a link above to that video where I talk about where people screw up when it comes to category pages with e-commerce stores. I highly recommend you go watch that video because I give you examples of what to do and what not to do in that video. Now, the next thing is the actual product pages themselves. So each product needs to have the relevant meta title, the relevant URL, and the relevant H1 headline optimized with the keyword like I've already described before for every product that you actually want to rank. And you need to also make sure to include unique and descriptive content for every product. So unfortunately, what most people do is they'll just upload a bunch of products, and sometimes when you have hundreds, it's very hard to optimize them all, but they'll upload hundreds of products. They'll just leave the URL, whatever it was, the H1 headline and the meta titles, whatever it was, automatically set when they uploaded it. They'll just copy paste the same content to all of the products and try and do that. And now the problem there is as soon as someone comes along and does what I'm describing here, you're just going to rank above all of them because they've not done a very good job. So that's why you want to make sure that if you actually want to rank, go and optimize every single one of your product pages, and you're going to stand a far higher chance of ranking than everybody else. Now, the next thing is images and alt text. So what you want to do with images is you want to make sure that you reduce the image size for fast loading while ensuring that they still look good. So make sure they're not low resolution, make sure that they're actually still look good, it's quality image and everything, but that the image size itself is lowered. So typically what you can do is lower the image size in width down to like 1,000 pixels, somewhere around there is typically more than enough, and upload it as a WebP format. And then what that's going to do is it's going to load faster and you won't have any slow loading issues, which is a big thing for SEO now. Some platforms like Shopify do this automatically, so you might not have to worry about it. Depends how you're doing it. Now, the next thing is what you want to do is the alt text. You want to include the keyword, but also describe the image in the alt text. So don't just stuff your keyword in there like men's shoes. If it's a man running with the running shoes, you would want to put man running in and then the keyword. So let's say, for instance, you're trying to rank for like Nike Air Max running shoes. You could put the description, something would be like man running in Nike Air Max running shoes. And then that's going to include the keyword, and it's actually going to describe the image, and Google's going to reward you for this, and you're more likely to rank for the image, and it's going to help overall your SEO on the site. Now, the next thing is the sitemap. So a lot of platforms make this automatically, for instance, Shopify, but sometimes they don't. If you're doing WordPress and you're not using a plugin, for instance, what you need to do is you would need to make a sitemap. So you have free sitemap builders. You can just go on Google and type in free sitemap generator, and it will throw out a sitemap. Now, a sitemap, just to give you an example, if we go to my website, it's typically found at whatever the URL is, .com. So let's say mine is shop.nefariousracing.com, and then you go /sitemap.xml. And that's usually where the sitemap is located, and this is what it is. It's just a basic text format that outlines what your shop actually looks like. Now, obviously, I don't have a lot on here because it's only got a couple of products, but you would have a long one of this with every URL on here. You want to take that and you'd want to submit that to Google Search Console. So speaking of Google Search Console, you'd want to actually go and set up a Google Search Console. You would go to this URL. I'll put this in the link below this video as well. You'd go to this URL, you would set up Google Search Console, and then you can submit your sitemap from the step before. So if we go to my Google Search Console, I've already set one up, and obviously there's no traffic here because the store's not actually live, but what you would do is you would take your sitemap, you'd go to sitemaps here, and you would type in that URL here. So for instance, it would be .sitemap.xml. So whatever is after the slash, you would type that in here, you'd hit submit, and it would submit the sitemap to Google Search Console. So what's going to happen here is Google's now going to be able to easily crawl your website because it's basically got a map telling it these are all the pages on the site, and then that's going to allow it to crawl your website a lot easier, and therefore it's going to do it quicker and you're going to rank faster. Now, if you are updating your website constantly and the sitemap doesn't automatically update, you'll need to go and regenerate it, re-upload it, and resubmit it to Google Search Console. So just be aware of that point. But if you're using, let's say, Shopify or an SEO plugin that does this automatically, you usually don't have to worry about it. It does it itself. And then Google goes and periodically crawls the sitemap to see what's on the website and what it needs to read, and then knows to index all your new pages as well. So that's why you want to add that here. Now, the next thing you need to do is have an SSL certificate that's active. So this is something that you need to do wherever you're hosting your website or hosting your domain. Basically, it's the little thing in the top tab. If we come down here, you can see here, if you click this, it says connection is secure, and it shows the little lock. If you don't have the SSL certificate, it's going to show not secure. In some cases, it might even show an error across the whole screen telling users not to use your website because it's unsafe. So obviously you don't want that. And not only that, it's actually a ranking factor for Google as well to have an active SSL certificate. So what you need to do is get that sorted with your hosting provider. So if you're not sure what to do, do there, just go to the support wherever you got your domain or your hosting and just ask them to apply the SSL certificate to your domain or to your hosting. Typically it's included for free. Sometimes you might have to pay like $5 a year or something, and make sure you get that done. Now the next thing is having a www or non-www URL. So you need to pick whichever one of these you want to use. For SEO it makes absolutely zero difference which one you're using, but you just need to make sure that you redirect the www version to the non-www version, or the other way around depending which one you're using. Otherwise it's going to show up as two separate sites to Google, and you're going to have duplicate content issues and all kinds of stuff. Now the other thing you want to do as well is make sure you redirect the HTTP version to the HTTPS version. So HTTPS, as you can see here, is what shows up when you have an active SSL certificate. If you don't have one, it would just be HTTP, but what you want to do is make sure you redirect the HTTP from the HTTPS. So make a note that not always when you put the sitemap does it automatically redirect. So you might need to set up a redirect to actually show it correctly on your website. Otherwise you're going to have that same issue with the wwws where you're going to show up as two websites. So ultimately you could have 4 versions of your website, which is obviously not good when it comes to SEO for duplicate content and all kinds of other issues. So make sure you get these redirects sorted. And now the last thing is blogs. So what you want to do once you've got your website set up, you got your products, you got all of that optimized, what you want to do is write ongoing blog content to help your shop rank and establish topical authority, as well as target keywords that are not necessarily commercially intent but could end up being potential customers later down the line. So for instance, if we go back to the men's running shoes, you can see here in SEMrush we got a whole list of questions here, 348 questions with a total search volume of up to 2,000 searches a month on just these questions, and this is just within SEMrush for running shoes. If we go back to men's shoes as a whole, you're going to see a whole lot more search volume, up to 93,000 searches a month estimated for men's shoes related questions that you would not otherwise have unless you went through and optimized for all these questions. And you would basically do that by posting blogs, and you could do that by basically posting blogs answering all of these questions and various other questions and keywords as well to get more traffic to your site, which you can then direct to your product pages. Now one other thing you can do is go to answerthepublic.com, which will give you some ideas for blogs. So if we take the URL, we go to Answer the Public. Here basically, let's say you type in men's shoes, what it's going to do is it's going to give you a huge topical map of ideas that you can use to write content about. So you can see here it's given this huge cluster here which you can go through and then type in or make blogs about each of these. So you click on one of these and it would give you the search volume for that keyword, what the cost per click is, and so on. So you can see here there's obviously a lot of ideas here just around men's shoes alone. You can scroll down here and it'll give you more clusters for different things as well, like different variations, different things within men's shoes, and so on. So you could go through here, you can see here you got a list here as well: men's shoes, Amazon, Walmart, Adidas, Macy's, so on and so on. So you could find a way to make blogs or content about all of these and try and rank for all of these keywords. So that's another way you can get ideas for keywords as well. So that's it. That's the ultimate beginner's guide to e-commerce SEO. If you do everything I've showed you in this video, you're going to stand a very high chance of actually ranking on Google, and you're actually going to do better than most of the e-com stores that I see on Google already. So follow this guide and you can basically guarantee that your website's going to rank. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll catch you on the next one.